Where a number of residents in Prince George's County now crying foul at issue frustration that snow and ice have yet to be removed from several streets and sidewalks. Some of the worst hit streets are drawing the attention of local officials with a particular focus on difficulties faced by residents in neighborhoods like Clinton. Other reports include Upper Marlboro, Bowie, Brandywine, and more. Joining us now to discuss all of this is Prince George's County Councilmember Walla Blagay back here on the Live Zone. Good afternoon, Ms. Blagay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. It's a cold day.
Oh, it is beyond cold, bone-chilling cold, as we just saw the forecast from Tucker.
Exactly.
I can tell you that, to my knowledge, the acting Prince George's County executive is holding a press conference right now to really discuss all of this. Obviously, you have been very proactive with regard to responding to your constituents, and they're concerned about the snow and ice that, well, many of us are saying, why has it not been removed as yet?
Yeah, we were told by DPWT before this started, they told us that they were going to be doing main and secondary roads, and they were preparing for before the storm, and that this was, and then after that, residents can file a 311 request. But what we noticed is that at least within, we were supposed to wait till 1 o'clock on Tuesday, 1 a.m. And honestly, by the end of Tuesday night, most of the main roads still had not been done. We're talking about by Wednesday, residents still could not get out of their garage. Right now, what's even worrying me, we have a lot of residents who need medication, who need to get out that are not able to get out. We have at least a fourth of our population that are seniors, and going out in the ice could be dangerous for them. So we wanted to know from DPWT there needed to be a better process with this. There were some, we even heard that some of the salt used did not quite melt the snow because of the cold. But these are things, again, we knew at least a week before that this was coming. And I've noted this before. We've seen snow like this in 2010, snow like this in 1996. And we are the government, and I can tell you there are many people that possibly work at DPWT and some other agencies that have been working here that long and have been able to see both snowstorms and know what's needed. So we can't make the same mistake again. We should be prepared, better prepared. And if they were going to focus on main and secondary road, there's no point of having a secondary road to have, to be cleared for all the side roads to be complete ice. People still can't get to work. They still can't get their meds, and that still impacts EMS because EMS still has to go into neighborhoods. So we are concerned. I did talk with the chair. She is going to be scheduling a hearing on this issue, and we need answers because we do know that there was a mishap here from the number of residents that have reached out to us. We've been sending the streets to DPWT every hour since Tuesday. A couple times on Tuesday and Wednesday, we had to actually act and actually put a statement out because there was just way too many complaints.
Yeah, you made mention earlier about the number of elderly perhaps now trapped in their homes and cannot get to their medication. Any plan of action to help them out, to make sure that they can get that medication that they so direly need?
We are, here's the thing, I'm working with a nonprofit that we're trying to see if we can help with seniors who need to be able to get out of their homes. The problem is that the street, even if we came and put something at the actual, and actually dug and put salt down at the home, that still doesn't impact the street that they need to get out of. So this is a bigger problem that we really do need Tara Jackson and the acting county executive and her team to really step it up here and get this done quickly. I did just forward an email of a resident who needs access, who hasn't gotten mail and needs their medication, and we just send it to the top officials in the county executive's office to ask them to act soon and maybe even send an emergency team over there.
Yeah. With that being said, I'm curious. One resident claims to have submitted a 311 ticket to not get a response. You have responded, but that
Yeah.
hasn't been the case for everyone else.
Well, we don't respond to 311 requests. What we do is that we actually send people to send it to 311, and then the 311 request, we take the number and follow up with the administration. The bigger problem with it, again, this is about sort of us planning ahead. 311 will sometimes give you the time that you should hear back, and some people are getting a date of January 14th or 15th, which is days, and people need to get to work. So it even more irritates residents if you put a 311 request with the outline that you won't receive a response till next week. So we're actually saying that there again should have been some thought about making sure that when 311 requests, there should be a short form that will let people know that they will get a response within 24 hours, and they should get a response within 24 hours, which they have not, and we have not. We've sent streets to DPWT ourselves on Tuesday, and even to date, we still haven't gotten a response on other than we're working diligently to get it done. We haven't gotten details on whether they respond to it or not.
All right, good to know. And congratulations on the success that you have had with regard to not only covering this, making sure you address this, but address all the other needs of the residents within your district. We truly appreciate you joining us right here on the live show.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, guys, that happens to be one of the top stories that's happening locally. On a national level, let's move on to President-elect Donald Trump, now sentenced to unconditional discharge for his conviction last year on 34 charges of business fraud related to hush money payment to Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign. What that means is that Trump will not be imprisoned, fined, or face probation. Joining us now to discuss all things surrounding that is Mr. Timothy Allen Simon, political strategist, yet again back here on the Live Zone. It's been a busy day thus far, Timothy.
Yes, it has, Guy, and happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you as well. I'm a guy that didn't go to law school, would love to do it perhaps one day, so I need you to break this down for me in layman's terms. What exactly unfolded today?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, Guy, because what unfolded today, law students, I was an adjunct law professor for 19 years, law students and professors and scholars will be delving into what we call perpetuity or forever. And that is the Judge Juan Merchan, New York Supreme Court, which in New York, every state has a separate system of justice. The Supreme Court is actually the trial court, basically gave an unconditional discharge to President-elect Trump and articulated in the most elegant fashion, staying above the fray, that this is about the office itself, not the individual. And that created a unique circumstance in his sentencing. I remember when I became appointment secretary for Governor Schwarzenegger, and you decide all the appointments in the administration, the bench, the commissions. A judge called me and just said, "Young man," I was young then. He said, "Young man, it's not your behind they're kissing, but the chair you're sitting in." This is about the chair that the president sits in the Supreme Court decisions, but more so the decision of the people to return this man to office. This is a reality show of democracy. That's what the Trump era is. It is an ongoing reality show that is signed on season after season because it has become the best entertainment in politics.
As for the president-elect, somewhat defiant, Trump telling the judge that this has been a terrible experience and a setback for the New York court system, in essence stating he did nothing wrong.
Well, there has been a certain degree of controversy in the transition from Cyrus Vance Jr. to Alvin Bragg, who initially had decided not to bring this case. What encouraged or convinced him to revive what we refer to now as the Stormy Daniels or the hush money case will probably be for memoirs yet to be seen. But be that as it may, I do think that President-elect Trump did find certain fissures in the process that he and his legal team are attacking. And I would be willing to wager, and it's not a wild bet because they've already said they will appeal, that this will go before a Supreme Court, a Supreme Court that is suffering its worst image or approval rating, probably in my view, since slavery. And we'll see how it weighs out when it goes before the justices.
You know, speaking of seeing, we know for sure we will see 10 days from now the president-elect sworn in as the next president of the United States, also the first president to be a convicted felon. There's some conditions, though, that go along with this that I'm somewhat perplexed. In this case, Trump does not have the same conditions as other convicted felons who have probationary periods, but instead has to maintain his role as president. Can you elaborate on that?
In fact, the New York Times guy wrote that a third of defendants convicted of this crime have done jail time, typically around a year, and are under probationary requirements. Again, Judge Merchan has decided that the office of the presidency, not Donald Trump, but the office that he will be assuming in 10 days, requires this weaving of sorts. He threaded the needle to try to find a conviction and sentencing that will allow the commander-in-chief to do their job. This will continue to be of controversy. By the way, when Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon, as we look at the death and the homegoing of former President Jimmy Carter, much of his election was because Gerald Ford opted to not put Richard Nixon, and this was on the federal side, what we have seen Donald Trump go through. So this issue of the imperial presidency, which former Attorney General William Barr, for example, and other legal scholars have supported, will be a case in controversy amongst those of us who study the law as either a passion or profession.
Timothy, following the court's ruling, I got a chance to listen to the audio tapes. They were released shortly thereafter. While listening to them, I could clearly hear the prosecutor stating that Trump has tried to undermine the verdict. He, in essence, laid into him, spoke to him as if he happened to be a child.
Well, that's what a prosecutor does when trying to convince a judge of the merits of the case. And by the way, this case has been decided by a jury, making it very clear this separation of powers, and that being the third branch of government, that the judiciary. But yes, he did lay into him. I think it was a certain degree of retaliation because, as you recall, President-elect Trump went after the prosecutor, went after the judge, went after the judge's family, the judge's staff, in his use of his bully pulpit and his press conferences outside of the courtroom. In other words, he has never shown remorse and still claims his innocence. And let me be fair here. You have people incarcerated at this time who still claim their innocence. It comes down to, as Denzel Washington said in Training Day, can you prove it? Well, yes. The Alvin Bragg team did prove it before a judge, before a jury, and I feel the prosecution wanted to emphasize that point so that the record in history will show that the president-elect is now the defendant or has been convicted of 34 felonies.
Timothy, we'll end with this, and you touched on this briefly earlier, and that is that Trump's lawyers now plan to appeal. Can you talk about that process, yet again, in layman's terms? What does that look like, the time frame of that?
Well, as you recall, because it's recent, the court did dismiss the prior appeal. I take it that the team will file a writ and will try to have a expedited or emergency review by the court, a court that is heavily influenced by the Trump appointees, plus Justice Alito, whom the record has showed has maintained a very close relationship with the president, even though he wasn't appointed by the president. I think that is a good one for the odds makers. Historically, John Roberts has tried to follow the path of Kennedy and other conservative judges who will swing with the liberals on certain issues. And that's now what the constitutional scholars will be evaluating based upon decisions, precedents, and other circumstances, is how this court will weigh when Trump's team files the appeal. Will they even take it? Or will it be dismissed initially, or will it actually come to an oral argument and hearing?
You made mention of Denzel Washington earlier in Training Day. I'll end with this, as he also stated in that movie, it's been one hell of a day. Yet again, we have been
Yes, it
discussing
has.
this with Timothy Allen Simon, political strategist, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Make it a great weekend, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Guy. Happy New Year.
And a happy new year to you as well.